Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Brian Smith with another edition of the Daily Knight. And today I want to talk a little bit about the narrative that has been going on with UCF football in a negative light and how it can change. Basically, what that means, and it's the article that's going up on Inside the Knights right after I do this, how do we get it to where these game-changing plays, like the interceptions, they've had 3 of them, returned for touchdowns against them, and then, of course, against Navy, the blocked punt. Additionally, I have a few other stats, but those are the 4 big plays. You just can't have those. Without researching it, I'm sure UCF's in the top 5 nationally in the 3 interceptions returned for touchdowns. Lord help the team that has more than that this season, although it's possible. Anything can happen in college football. But with that, here are a couple of things that I'm concerned about going against Memphis. Is I've dug in real deep with stats over the last 24 hours. And I'm going to watch some of Memphis tonight just to kind of get a better feel for them. But here's the key overall. UCF is playing a team that can flat out light it up. Seth Hennigan is a freshman quarterback, but he is abnormal. He has started and played pretty much every snap for them. Every pass that Memphis has taken has been by Seth. He can flat out throw it. He has over 2,000 yards passing already, and he is a big-time player. Further, Calvin Austin, the third, is not just a good football player. He's one of the best players in all of college football. Every week, it seems like UCF goes up against one of those guys. You're like, wow, this dude is electric. Calvin Austin is that guy. UCF is going to go up against a guy that has 50 catches and 8 touchdowns already in 7 games. He's a dude. Further, and it's in an article I put up just a little bit ago, he has arguably the greatest play in college football this year, not only athletically, but intelligently. Just follow along here. And again, this is in an article I put up earlier today. I put it on YouTube. I just couldn't believe how dumb it was on Mississippi State's part. But during the game, they played Mississippi State. They tried to catch the punt to Memphis. They just got under it. They were going to catch it. The guy muffs it. The ball's live. Mississippi State player, the second one, comes up and just kind of touches the ball. It's still live. It's not controlled yet. It's not controlled. Well, Austin just goes and grabs it, picks it up, and runs 94 yards for a touchdown. Now, that's on Mississippi State, but that's the kind of game-changing play that just he can make. They also have a running back that has over 600 yards. They have several receivers, I think 4, that are plus a tight end, that are at 16.3 yards or more per catch. You get my drift here. If you give them any additional plays, or you hand them a freebie at the 20-yard line, or a pick 6, a blocked punt, you will get your butt kicked. You're not going to lose. You're going to get smoked. And I guarantee if Gus Malzahn was sitting right here next to me, he'd be nodding his head. These are just plays you can't give up. And for whatever reason, UCF has just had terrible, terrible plays. And a couple of them were by Dylan. So it wasn't like it was just players that are not usually on the field or Mikey Keene, whatever. It has been a full gamut. That cannot happen moving forward. And here's a couple other statistics that I'm mind blown by this. It's just, what are we doing? UCF on third down this year, with all their skill talent, and I know Mikey's a freshman, has really struggled on third down. That allows extra possessions for the opponent. Against Memphis, although not as bad as a pick 6, you can't have early 3 and outs. The first quarter is everything in this game. If UCF does not start fast, and in a certain way, starting fast means just beating them to death, run the ball, throw short passes, then hit a big play, whatever it may be, over the top, double move, quarterback throwback, maybe some kind of trick play that would energize the crowd and keep the bounce house moving, UCF's going to be in trouble. Memphis is going to drop 30 on UCF. I can just about guarantee you. Can UCF score with them? If they can't, they're not going to win. UCF defense has its issues with injuries, and barring something unforeseen, I'm a prove-it-to-me guy. I don't want to hear it. I want to see it. Ricky Barber, if he does not play, they're going to be in big trouble anyway, and there's nothing they can do about that on defense. It's on the UCF offense to keep those guys off the field. Have to do it. No exceptions. Now, the other part of this, UCF, just statistically speaking here, I don't think you're going to see a team that is going to go through more ups and downs than what they did against Cincinnati. They had like 1 yard rushing and like 28 total yards in the first quarter, but they ended up with 154 yards, I believe it was, rushing. Ryan O'Keefe had the 51-yarder. That was their one explosive. Way too late in the game to matter, but it still showed. I mean, they ran for over 150 yards against Cincinnati. It's still a statistic, but you have to do it in balance. UCF has just got a weird trend just in general, not just the Cincinnati game, but overall this year with some of their stats. They dominated Boise State. They dominated Bethune-Cookman. They're both their running games. Then they got bludgeoned by Cincinnati and for the most part, Louisville and definitely Navy in the running game. They're just all over the map. What team is going to stand up? Again, I know the injuries matter, but they have to overcome it. That's what players get scholarships for, and that's what these coaching staffs get paid for. Figure it out. So here are a couple other things to talk about, and none of these are necessarily going to be surprising, but I'm just going to add my own 2 cents as to how it may change. With that, here's something, the 34.1% over 3 games, third down conversion. I know I did those 3 because that's when Mikey's been the quarterback, and he's going to be the quarterback for the foreseeable future. They have to find a way to get that above 40, especially against Memphis. They cannot be in that position against a team that's already averaging 35.9 points per game. Even one more possession where you're putting guys that are tired on the field already in an extra possession, how well do you think that's going to go? If they go 3 and out to start this game and Memphis goes up 14-0, the air is going to come out of that stadium and it's going to be ugly. Have to score early. Those third down conversions, again, if Gus was sitting next to me, he'd say the same thing. This is not anything intelligent that I'm bringing up. Sometimes it's just the obvious and it needs to be stated. That's what this podcast is. Here's the obvious. What in the heck are we doing on third down? It's not good. Part of that, though, is getting a better start on first down. They've been too predictable, too many short passes and too many obvious runs. And you still have to execute better, too. Gus mentioned when a receiver catches a pass, make a frickin' play. Make a play. Make a guy miss. Now, that doesn't mean swinging the ball out like an idiot. There goes another ball the other direction. Can't do that. But we have serious athleticism at the receiver position. Plus, you got Johnny coming out of the backfield. Those are guys that can fly. Amari, Johnny, Ryan, they can all fly. You have to make plays. There's also another one. Brandon Johnson leads the team with 6 touchdowns. He's not the twitchiest guy, but he's 6'2", 195, and his arms are like a tree limb. Both of them. Throw him a jump ball. I mean, that's something that Mikey Keene is known for anyway. That's another version of making a play. They need chunk yardage plays. That's another point that Coach Malzahn made at his press conference during Monday. Must make chunk yardage plays. He said, hey, when we do, we score touchdowns. We don't even kick field goals. He's right. He's 100% right. Score touchdowns, but they've struggled getting the 3 to 8 yard kind of range plays like an experienced team. Think of the 95 Nebraska team, one of the greatest teams ever. They would 3 to 5 yard you to death. And then if you did miss a run fit, Lawrence Phillips would score or Tommy Frazier would score. UCF's not on that level. The 2 best players in the country that year were in the Nebraska backfield, literally the 2 best. That's just an anomaly. UCF needs to find ways to move the ball. The tight ends need to be more involved. There's another way to get in 5 yards here or there. Check downs. Gus Malzahn mentioned that at his press conference. Got to hit these little plays. That's on Mikey. Gus is right. I mean, sometimes third and long, you just got to throw it down. We may not get the first down, but you move the field a little more, and every yard counts. So when you punt, they have to go a longer distance. Don't just throw it up for grabs. All kinds of little things like that UCF is just fumbling and bumbling their way, figuratively and literally, in games when they're really close. Considering the following statistic, if you take Cincinnati out, which they were just bludgeoned, they were destroyed. All 5 games that UCF has played have fallen under the following category. They won, or it went down to the final minute. 5 out of 6. UCF's a competitive team. Even with the injuries, they make enough plays to hang around in games and sometimes win. Look at the East Carolina game. Did anybody really think they were going to go down and score 2 times in a row after the way the offense had played? I didn't. I was sitting there watching it in the booth, but they did. Sometimes if you can just hang around and you can see trends, you see little things you wear on a team, and UCF's run game did a nice job of that. Hammer hitting the rock. East Carolina kind of flailed a little bit at the end, like most defenses do. It takes more energy to play defense. Johnny gets a big screen. There was the pass on 4th down to Mark Anthony Richards. They found a way to make it. And then at the end, Mark dives into the end zone for the touchdown. Knights win 20-16. That's a classic example of perseverance, but finding a way to make that big play. It was just a screen to Johnny, and he made a guy miss. Out on the flank on the right. I saw it come like he's got one guy. I thought he was going to score. It was a nice job by East Carolina just getting to the ground. Fortunately for UCF, it worked out that he didn't because they ate up more clock. But he still got the ball down the field on a big play. That kind of thing changes momentum. And then on the 4th down, it wasn't a long gain, but it was a critical play. He catches the ball. He just executed. He'd been kind of thrust into the lineup. Who thought Mark was going to be the one to catch the ball? I bet you Mikey didn't. I guarantee he wasn't one of the first 2 or 3 options. Mikey read his progressions, kept the ball alive, didn't get sacked. O-line did their job. Let's check down to Mark, make him be in a position to get a play. He got a few yards afterwards, moved the chains. The rest is history. Those are the kinds of things that they just have to get in the mindset. They're going to do it. Positivity. Right now, it's kind of hard to be positive. I get it. Maybe that's why when I walked in yesterday to the press conference, they were practicing because they have a Friday game. They're doing their Tuesday practice on Monday. They got to speed everything up. It's unfortunate. Coach Malzahn also mentioned that. He's not real happy, but it is what it is in his own words. So they try to get things going. They were playing Metallica. It's one of my favorite bands, by the way, but they were playing Enter Sandman. I mean, like just high energy. They're trying to get these guys going again because they know it's not easy. You have to do things with college-age kids, 17 to 23-year-old range. That's a pretty delicate balance, ups and downs. How do we get the bounce outs going? We got to get the players going. If the players get going, the fans will follow. We need an early play like that to get going. Now, before I go into segment 2, here's the only thing I want you to think about. And it's going to be a short segment because it's more on the people listening than it is me. Play calling is given a lot of grief at all levels of football. If I go to a high school game I can't go Friday, but this weekend in some capacity, if I walk up in the stands and I don't give a crap what the score is, there's going to be somebody complaining. Even if his team's up by 28, the play calling's not good. Everybody's a play caller. Whatever. It's not true, by the way. Most fans don't have a clue. But with that being stated, what would you do to kickstart the play calling? It could be anything. Is it a certain type of running play? Would you rather see more gap plays, meaning pulling around the guard and tackle, kind of like the old Washington Redskins from the 80s, or, the Michigan State's famous for it. There's a lot of teams that do it. How do you generate the running game? That's one. 2, the passing game. This is more my area, and I'm going to give my take on this momentarily in segment 2. What types of passes and or players would you try to get the ball to situationally, as well as down in distance, I guess is a better way to say than situationally, as well as do you do it early in the game or do you wait for Mikey to kind of get his feet wet? So something to think about. With that, here's my take on the play calling. And this is going to be the shortest segment 2 I ever do because it's just straightforward. UCF needs to find a way to create chunk yardage plays. We all know it. They were not very good, in my opinion, on how they attacked Cincinnati. I've talked about it numerous times. I will continue to talk about it. It is something I will talk about 3 years from now. When you play a team with special players at certain spots and really a balanced defense, you have to find a way to eliminate one of them with specific play calling. And sometimes it's just physicality. The one thing that UCF has, and it's unquestioned, is an experienced offensive line with some really good athletes. In my opinion, more screens to the running backs like Johnny on the big play, as well as reverses, such as the one to Ryan O'Keefe for 51 yards against Cincinnati. Those kinds of plays can do things. If you just get them, let's say, 8 to 12 yards to the perimeter of the offensive tackle on either side, how many times is a guy like Ryan O'Keefe going to get tackled by the first guy? Maybe 50%, maybe. Same thing with Johnny. And if they do make the first guy miss, their explosiveness is on another level. Same thing with Amari. And I really wouldn't want to be the poor guy that had to be in front of Bowser because he's tremendous at making the first guy miss. It's probably 75%. And that's why he's an NFL player, flat out. And he's 225 pounds. As somebody who's looked down the gun barrel of that kind of situation playing DB, it is not a good time at all. Let me tell you that right now. It is not a good time. They need to find a way to get them involved a little more in the screen game, as well as fake screen, go over the top like the guy that's going to block. It's a play everybody uses. The timing of it is important. UCF has to hit a shot play like that. Double move, that's part of a double move. Out and up. They've got to execute them, though. I'm not saying that they didn't try to run some of these against Cincinnati. I honestly don't know everything because I wasn't in the booth, and I hate watching TV and watching a game if I've got to analyze it because they don't show the coverages. And it's the most important thing by a landslide. And I don't know what the receivers were running. So if they ran them and they didn't execute them, that's on the receivers. If they didn't run them, that's on the coaches. One or the other, UCF failed. Must create big plays in the passing game. Period. UCF did not do a good job of that. And it's going to be the difference on whether or not they can compete with Memphis and, quite frankly, any other team they play the rest of this season. Their defense is in disarray. Too many injuries. You've got 3 sophomores and a freshman rotating at corner. That's never good. I don't care if you're Miami in the heyday of the 80s. That's not good. You have a D-line situation where your second best defensive lineman arguably is coming back from injury. You hope. Your best one by far. It's not coming back. They're going to give up points. They're going to give up points. You have to find a way to expect in your mind, how do we get to 35 without giving up turnovers? And that's the minimum. You need to expect to score 35 to win. That's where UCF is. The defense right now is just bad. With the injury situation, there's too many guys coming in and out. They have to prove to me, at least, that they can be a good defense again. And I don't know if that's true or not. We won't know just yet. So I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to do some recruiting stories the rest of the day, as well as a couple college football stories today, tomorrow. It's been a wild week, a fun one. There's going to be some LSU stuff because, as I've said a few times, they are the dictator for how everything is going to happen, like it or not, as an LSU fan, for the people that are, in regards to the coaching changes and recruiting. With Ed Orgeron getting the quote-unquote buyout or the agreement, whatever the heck it is at LSU, that's a huge job, and it's going to change coaches. The additional part of it, nobody saw this coming, but it's the history of that rivalry. LSU upset Florida last week, and they did it again, or did it last year too, but that time it was at the Swamp. Dan Mullen is now on the hot seat, and his mouth is getting him in trouble. His arrogance is getting him in trouble, and I don't know what it stems from, if he's just frustrated. I don't remember him being that way. Maybe it's because I don't follow the Gators close enough. If that domino falls, that would just completely change. It would have been just catastrophic in terms of the job. You'd have USC, which came open after week 2, LSU now, Florida, and Miami is going to happen. I've said that 100 times. He's a terrible coach. He's going to get canned. We're going to see UCF benefit from some of this in terms of recruits this year and in the future. When major programs blow up, sometimes kids leave. UCF is recruiting a lot of the kids that these schools recruited. Just keep that in mind. So everybody have a great day. Check me out on Inside the Nights. Be safe, and I will see you tomorrow. Going to be probably featuring some of the college football games with all the interesting stuff coming up. Take care.